Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya yatam vayaditaratas chatir svavigya swarat. Tenne Brahma Rudaya Adhika Vayemo Jantija Suraya Tejo Varim Rida Yata Vinimayo Jatra Trisargur Mrisya Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Paramdi Mahi. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Arati, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because of the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes.
Creation, sustenance, destruction of the manifested universe.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
Of water seen in fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen in fire or land seen in the water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universe.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature.
Appear factual although they are unreal.
Appear factual although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
Which is forever free from the illusory representations.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute.
Dharma projita kaitavocha.
Dharma projita kaitavocha.
Paramo nirmatsranam satam.
Paramo nirmatsranam.
Vedyam vastavam atravastu.
Vedyam vastavam astravastu.
Shivadam tapa trayon mulanam.
Shivadam tapa trayon mulanam.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni.
Kim va purer Ishvaraha.
Kim va
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra.
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate.
Kriti Bihi Sususabhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold mysteries. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nikama kalpatur galitam phalam. Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam. Pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam. Muhur ahurasika bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagvatam. The mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was so relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shamvatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hridyantak Stohi Bhadrani,
Vidyantastohiya Bhata,
Vidunati Suhitsatam.
Vidunoti Surisatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic
To
literatures,
hear about Krishna from the Vedic,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly from the
it's a self-righteous activity.
It is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart.
acts as a best-wishing friend,
Acts as the best wishing friend.
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
And it purifies the body's constantly engaged in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistake. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam, and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye cheta itara navidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance. And thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Sangasya Jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarvasamsaya shiyante chasya karmani drista evatmanishvare. Thus Bhakti Yoga serves the heart not of material affection, and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Text 16. Grihat pravarjito dhira punya tirtha jala pluta surcho vivikta asino vidivat kalpita sane. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in a lowly place, duly sanctified. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Dhananjaya, can you go in my room and get my phone, cell phone? It's on the little desk. To prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashram Dharma, or Sanatana Dharma, prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore after retirement everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prize posts until death. Let me just see it. I hope that's the right one. Yeah, it's the right one. Thank you. High government officers and ministers stick to their prize posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for still more comfortable life, but suddenly cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 8,400,000 species of life according to the fruits of the work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of the human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there, even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age. And thus, at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life. The system of the Sanatana Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent persons must go there at the end of life, and for that matter, after 50 years of age, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachment, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachment, and as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connections with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self-control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal, or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The method is that one should have a duly sanctified sitting place made of straw, deerskin, and carpet, and thus, sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of the Lord without offense as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So there's a very nice verse, 8th Canto, 19th chapter, 2nd verse. And it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, and speaking to Prahlad Maharaj, you are indeed exalted because your present advisors are the Brahmanas who are descendants of Bhrigu, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather. Oh no, I'm telling you, this is Krishna speaking to Bali Maharaj. Okay, and for your future life, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather, the peaceful and venerable Prahlada Maharaj. Your statements are very true, and they completely agree with religious etiquette. They are in keeping with the behavior of your family and they enhance your reputation. So, in the purport, Prahlad Maharaj is a vivid example of a pure devotee. Someone may argue that since Prahlad Maharaj, even though very old, was attached to his family and specifically to his grandson Bali Maharaja, how could he be an ideal example? Therefore, this verse uses the word prashanta. A devotee is always sober. He is never disturbed by any conditions. Even if a devotee remains in grihastha life and does not renounce material possessions, he should still be understood to be prashanta, sober, because of his pure devotion to the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said, Kiba vipra kiba nasi sudra kene hanaya, ye Krishna tattva veta se kuru haya. Whether one is a brahmana, a sannyasi, or a sudra, regardless of what he is, he can become spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 8.128. Anyone completely aware of the science of Krishna, regardless of his status in life, is a guru. Thus, Prahlada Maharaj is a guru in all circumstances. Here, his lordship Vamanadev also teaches sannyasis and brahmacharis that one should not ask more than necessary. He wanted only 3 paces of land, although Bali Maharaj wanted to give him anything he wanted. So this is one example of Prahlad Maharaj, who did not leave his family or leave his house and hearth. But that's because everybody in his family was Krishna conscious. And they were practicing full Krishna consciousness with complete control of their mind and senses. And Prahlad Maharaj was acting as guru for his grandson, Bali Maharaj. So he's described as prashanta, meaning completely peaceful, not agitated by lust, anger, greed, or any of those bad qualities. So therefore, everything depends on being Krishna conscious, whether it's in the forest or in one's home. But if the home is not a peaceful place where everyone is Krishna conscious, then one should leave. But not leave precipitously once all the family obligations, or most of the family obligations, or the main family obligations are satisfied, such as the children grow up, they're educated, hopefully Krishna conscious, they get married. And from that point on, especially when one becomes 50 years old, they should understand the bell is tolling. That's a statement in English. Ernest Hemingway wrote a book, For Whom the Bell Tolls. In other words, the bell is Yamaraj ringing this bell saying, okay, time's almost up. You should get ready to meet your ultimate destiny, which is death of the material body, not death of the soul. The soul's eternal, but death of the material body. And what are you going to think of at the moment of death? So that requires a preparation. We should prepare our whole life for the moment of death, and especially once we become 50 years old, we can hear the bell ringing. In other words, your time is almost up. So we should understand that and plan our life. 25 years, first 25 years for education, next 25 years, if you want, you can get married, raise your family, and then the last 25 or 50 years, you should be totally focused on Krishna consciousness. And even in family life, one should be thoroughly focused on Krishna consciousness so that when the right time comes, you can leave without any material attachments. That's husband and wife. So they leave together and engage in vanaprastha life by becoming detached from home and hearth. And then later on, the husband is confident, the wife is confident. The husband takes sannyas, wife lives with her children, or grown-up children, or in a holy place like Vrindavan. And both husband and wife were like sannyasis from that point on. Okay, so the key is to become Krishna conscious and not to be addicted to sense gratification. That can only happen if one is actually chanting and hearing on a regular basis and taking prasadam and so forth. You know the process. So yesterday we were talking about this when one engages in devotional service, automatically one develops knowledge and renunciation. And that doesn't matter what position one is in, a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi, or a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or sudra. This is a fact of devotional service. And only by devotional service can we understand Krishna. So, Prabhupada explains, when one understands what is Krishna in truth, that is called knowledge. Jnana vairagya yuktena tatomam tatvato gyatva visitetad anantaram. And then what happens? Because of this constant engagement in devotional service, one receives the causeless mercy of Krishna, has knowledge and renunciation, then one can enter into the transcendental life. Or as Prabhupada says, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual kingdom, not before that. Not before that, without bhakti. And bhakti, by bhakti, you will automatically attain a stage of jnana vairagya, just like if you take one very nice digestive pill, so whatever you have eaten, even stone, it will be digested. It will be digested. Similarly, as soon as you take the bhakti, immediately your gross and subtle body is digested. You will live in a spiritual body. Sagunam samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. So that's Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Brahmabhuyaya means that spiritual body. We are already Brahman, aham brahmasmi, but it is covered by the material body, the gross body. Shitir apam tejo marud vyoma, fire, water, earth, air, like that. And mano buddhi ahankara, and the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. So we are covered by this subtle body and gross body. This is our impediment. But by karma yoga, you try to get out of this gross body. By jnana yoga, you try to get out of this subtle body. But bhakti yoga, you cross over the subtle body and gross body. You are immediately situated in the spiritual body. Jnana vairagya yuktena sagunam samatityaitan. So therefore that verse 14:26, mamchayo vibhacharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in devotional service and does not fall down under any circumstances, such a person transcends the influence of the three modes of material nature and comes back and attains the spiritual platform. So that is what we're talking about. In other words, the body is created by the three modes of material nature, according to, as explained in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Karanam Gunasangasya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. We get different types of bodies on account of association with these material modes of nature, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, Tama Guna. But if you are situated in a devotional service of the Lord, you immediately become on the platform of Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. Immediately, aham brahmasmi. This is simply theoretical. That is theoretical knowledge, that I am Brahma. But when you are actually in devotional service, then that is practical. You are no more in the material platform. So most people, they study books, Vedas, and they can theoretically understand, I am not this body. But you can't practically understand it unless you engage in devotional service. So the bookworms are theoretical, And the devotees who engage in practical service are practical. They have realized knowledge, and from that point on, Krishna gives them knowledge. Let's say they're not smart enough to read Sanskrit, or they're not smart enough to read complicated philosophical books like Chaitanya Charitamrita or Nectar of Devotion or even Bhagavad Gita. That's okay. Simply engaging in devotional service, they will get the causeless mercy of Krishna. In other words, it's not because they know Sanskrit or they're highly intelligent or have PhD degree. It's because they're engaged in practical devotional service. Krishna gives them the knowledge and the renunciation. Therefore, that gross and subtle body melts away and one becomes established in the spiritual platform. And their body and the senses become spiritualized, even though it's material. Just like an iron rod becomes fireized by putting it in the fire. And pretty soon, when you take it out of the fire, you touch something and it burns. You touch something with the iron bar and you can set it on fire. So the iron bar becomes fire by being put in the fire. In the same way, the devotee becomes completely purified by engaging always in devotional service. So we're not theoretical. Bhakti is practical. We should understand that. But when you're actually in devotional service, then that is practical. You're no more on the material platform. You are on the Brahman platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Naso Chatina Kanksati Samaksarve Subhutesu Mad Bhaktim Lapate Param. So the symptom of someone who is situated on the Brahman or spiritual platform is no more lamentation, no more material desires or hankering. One has replaced those material desires with spiritual desires to please Guru and Krishna. And then, Samaksarve Subhutesu, you are equal to all living entities, friend and enemy. You're not partial. You're equal to all. You treat everyone as a spirit soul. Not that this one is a corrupted spirit soul, is a nonsense, is a useless person. No. Just like every Saturday, first and third Saturday of the month, we go to Shoreline. And in Shoreline, where we go to this black coffee company, we park our truck in their parking lot. But the reason we go there is not to feed the people that drive in cars to buy coffee, although some of them do ask for prasadam. But it's basically because it's one block away from the methadone clinic. That is, drug addicts go to this clinic to get a weekly supply of methadone, which is a drug that makes them feel good, but it's also a drug, but it's to help them wean them off of heroin, which is much more devastating. So these are all drug addicts, and they really appreciate prasadam, and then we also give them socks and gloves and toothpaste and that product that keeps your hand warm, and whenever we have them, and towels and different things, and so they really appreciate it. But now they're beginning to ask questions about Krishna consciousness. Not all of them, but the more they eat prasadam. So there's one lady who's been a drug addict for 16 years, right? And she lost possession of her child. She can only see the child once a week under supervision, things like that. But she started asking some serious questions, and so I gifted her, a higher taste book, and then on chanting booklet, pamphlet, and then she said, "I'm going to read this." And I said, "Look, you can heal yourself. It's possible to get off these drugs." She's not only taking methadone; she's taking what's called benzodiazepines, which is a whole class of very sophisticated, highly addictive drugs that almost 50% of this country is at one time or other taking those types of drugs. 50% of the population, to calm them down, to make them feel good, but it's highly addictive. Once you get on it, it's almost impossible to get off. So I told her it's possible you can get off these drugs, but it takes a long time, and you have to be very disciplined. But I said, but if you chant this mantra, Hare Krishna, it'll help you develop that discipline and patience to gradually get off the drugs. And then I explained some other things to her. And she told me, you know, I think I was destined to hear this, because this is what I want to hear. And I said, look, don't think that overnight you're going to stop being addicted. It's going to take time, but you're going to need to have patience and determination that you can do it. And I told her, just like whoever made the lock also made the key to open it or close it. So I said, God has given you every facility. If you want to be a drug addict, he helps you become a drug addict. If you want to get off the drugs, he'll help you get off the drugs. You just have to want that really hard. And I said, you should be meditating on your child, how to get your child back. She said, wow, how do you know all these things? I said, I'm not a prophet. I can't read the future. I just read the present. In the present, you're suffering. That's because you must have committed many sinful activities before. And right now, you're receiving some knowledge now that how you can stop the suffering and change your future based on what you're going to do now, the decisions you make now. So you don't have to go to the palm reader. You don't have to go to the astrologer to know your past and your present and your future. You know by the fact that you're suffering now that you committed many sins in the past. And now you know that if you stop sinful activity, your future will be completely different. So you can tell what your past is by what's happening to you now, and you can know what your future is if you engage in Krishna consciousness. And you know also that if you don't change, then in the future you're going to suffer like you're suffering now. So you don't have to go to a palmist. You don't have to go to an astrologer to know past, present, and future. This is explained in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagvatam, the story of Ajamila, how you can know past, present, and future just by analyzing your present. Right? So this is very interesting. So now, Prabhupada says, so long you are in the subtle body and gross body, then you are suffering under the 3 modes of material nature. The body is created by the 3 modes of material nature according to Karanam Gunasangasya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. We get different types of bodies on account of association with these material modes of nature, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, Tama Guna. But if you are situated in a devotional service to the Lord, you immediately come on the platform of Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Immediately, Aham Brahmasmi. This is simply theoretical. That is theoretical knowledge, that I am Brahma. But when you are actually in devotional service, then that is practical. You are no more on the material platform. You are on the Brahman platform, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. So by being situated on the spiritual platform, automatically you achieve your original status, your constitutional position, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. You're no longer troubled by the modes of material nature, by sense gratification. Then you're able to enter into the kingdom of God or the spiritual world. Tato mam tattvato gyatva. So bhaktya mam abhijananti yamanyaschasmi tattvato. Tato mam tattvato gyatva vishatetad anantaram. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 1854. Here also it is said, pravisanti akutobayam. Pravisanti, you have entered. You are not destroyed. Just like we are pravisanti in different types of body and material existence, Tata dehantara prapti. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 13th verse. We're changing bodies. We're getting situated in different bodies. So when you are free from this material contamination, then you're pravisanti. You're situated in the spiritual world. The pravisanti is there. There's situation. In the material world, you're pravisanti from one body to another, and you are suffering. So long you get this body, you must suffer. Either you get the king's body, or the shoemaker's body, or the ant's body, or dog's body. To accept material body means suffering. There cannot be akatobayam, free from fear. Unless you enter into the spiritual world with your spiritual body, there's no question of being free of fear and anxiety. So that akatobayam is possible when you are practiced in bhakti yoga. Vasudevi Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, Jnanayat Yasuvairagam, Jnanam Chaya, the height to come. If you engage yourself in devotional service of Vasudeva, Krishna, Vasudeva, Om Namo Bhagavate, Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you enter, then Vasudeva Bhagavati, in devotional service. Vasudeva means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. If you apply yourself to devotional service, engage yourself in Bhakti Yoga, then Janayat Yasu Vairagyam, immediately you'll get this knowledge and renunciation, cause and effect. The cause is devotional service, the effect is knowledge and renunciation. As soon as you engage yourself in devotional service of Vasudeva under the direction of Shastra and spiritual master, then Janayat Yasu Vairagyam, you get knowledge and renunciation. As you are practically experiencing that since you have come to Krishna consciousness movement, you have no more interest in material activities, no more interest. That is Vairagya, renunciation. You are simply meant for service of Krishna. That is jnana, knowledge. In this way, if you want actually to be fearless and enter into the spiritual life or spiritual kingdom, back to home, back to Godhead, then you have to accept this bhakti yoga process. And it is very easy. Then you become fearless and your life is successful. Wow, what an amazing lecture by Srila Prabhupada. And we should take it to heart. So, we're in this material world, we're being bombarded with false knowledge, so-called knowledge. Actually, it's like a bottle that has a label on it, nectar, but when you drink it, you start dying and choking because it was actually poison. That is material knowledge. It's all poison. It poisons the mind. It poisons the body. And then it's just like the vacuum cleaner salesman. He knocks on your door, and you answer the door, and you say, yes. You say, oh, excuse me. And then he throws a bag of dirt into your house. And then he barges in and says, don't worry, I'll clean this up with this amazing vacuum. And now he cleans it up with the vacuum, and then convinces you to buy the vacuum. So first he threw the dirt, and then he barged into your house and cleaned it up with his vacuum, and now he sold you the vacuum. You see, this is what they do. They, first of all, make this COVID-19 bacteria or virus in some chemical laboratory, spread it around the world, and they say, don't worry, we'll make a vaccine. See? So what happens? By creating the problem, they so-called create the vaccine, and they make billions of dollars. You know, so far they've inoculated 80 million Americans, but now they're getting ready because there's more than 300 million Americans. Now they're getting ready to vaccinate all the rest of the country. You know how much money that means? You know, it's a huge amount of money. It runs into hundreds of billions of dollars, right? So this is big business. Just like the vacuum cleaner business. First he throws the dirt, then he barges in and cleans it up, and you end up buying the vacuum cleaner, you see. So this is material life. But however, if you always live dependent on the mercy of Krishna, and you follow the rules and regulations, Krishna consciousness is purification. That's what it is. You purify the body, you purify the mind, you purify the intelligence, you purify the false ego, and now you come back to the spiritual platform. And the spiritual platform is eternal life. So why should we purposely contaminate the body by eating nonsense things and doing nonsense things with our body, all kinds of different sense gratification, and then hearing nonsense things that poisons the mind. We come from monkeys, everything started by Big Bang, and there's gender fluidity, and then there's nothing after death. And, you should enjoy yourself. Don't listen to what Harivilas says. You'll be engaged in devotional service all the time. Go take a vacation every once in a while. Go to Disneyland. Go to Montana. Go to Yellowstone Park. Go here. Go there. You need some vacation, some downtime, right? There are actually devotees preaching this. The downtime devotees, right? Yeah. They actually preach. Don't always listen to what Harivilas says. You'll be running around all day long. This festival, that festival, and do this thing and do. Take it easy. Take it easy, right? You need some vacation. But yet Prabhupada says that there's no vacation in Krishna consciousness because it's all blissful. Why do you need a vacation if you're already in bliss? Right? Savai pumsa parodharmo yato bhaktira hoksite ahaituki patihatra yayat master prasiddhi. So this verse is very important because it explains that there's no vacation. Let's see where it says that. It's very important. That's Bhagavad Gita 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 6. So the word apratihatra, that means no vacation in Sanskrit. It says, apratihatra means unbroken, and ahaituki means causeless. So that's what happens when one attains the goal of life, which is loving devotion unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So if someone is preaching, take a vacation, they're violating this verse because it says that devotional service should be uninterrupted, right? Unbroken. Okay, so then there's something else that I wanted to quickly discuss because it's very important. And that is, where is that? Right in the introduction to the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, wow, where did that? Interesting. Okay, let me reorient myself here. Okay, so okay, maybe we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow. I missed this. I didn't write it down properly. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Oh no, I found it. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Prabhupada explains something extremely important in the Canto 1, Chapter 1, verse number 1 in the purport. right at the end of that purport. He says, conditioned souls beginning from Brahma, who engineers the entire universe, down to the insignificant ant, are all creating, but none of them are independent of the Supreme Lord. The materialist wrongly thinks that there is no creator other than his own self. This is called Maya, or illusion. This is what they teach in school. There's no God, there's only science, and we are perfecting the science, and one day we will be God, because we will also be able to create life. We're right on the verge of it right now. And very soon, maybe by 2150, death will be optional. Remember, I read about that, right? This is what they're saying. And this is what they're teaching kids. Because of his poor... this is called Maya, or illusion, that there's no creator other than oneself. Because of his poor fund of knowledge, the materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses, and thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. This is refuted in the sloka by Srila Vyasadeva. In other words, the sloka that we repeat every day, the first sloka of Srimad Bhagvatam. Since the complete whole, or the absolute truth, is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth. So that's a paraphrase of part of the first mantra that we recite every day, which says that only because of him do the material universe, temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. Why? Because Krishna is, it says here, he's the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He's directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. So, the scientists say that the material nature is itself the cause and the effect of everything. That there's no other cause beyond the material nature. Now we're going to hear why the scientists are confused. This is an amazing explanation by Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, because of his poor fund of knowledge, the materialist cannot see beyond the purview of his imperfect senses. Purview means how far his imperfect senses can go in perceiving. And thus he thinks that matter automatically takes its own shape without the aid of a superior intelligence. This is refuted in this sloka by Srila Vyasadeva. Since the complete whole, or the absolute truth, is the source of everything, nothing can be independent of the body of the absolute truth. Whatever happens to the body quickly becomes known to the embodied. Similarly, the creation is the body of the absolute whole. Therefore, the absolute knows everything directly and indirectly that happens in the creation. In other words, just like you go to a doctor and say, I got a pain right in my heart, doctor. And the doctor analyzes your heart. He said, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. He said, but doctor, I really have a pain right here. I said, I don't understand how it's happening. My stethoscope doesn't reveal if there's anything. You'll have to have an MRI. Maybe that'll reveal it, Or you have to have an X-ray. Maybe that'll, because MRI only goes to the soft flesh. The X-ray goes to the bones, right? And then he said, well, maybe we'll have to put a little, we have to go through an artery with a little camera through your arteries right to your heart and see if we can find the problem. So that's the next thing. So there's three levels, right? One is the MRI, then is the X-ray, and now it's the probe that goes, they make a hole in an artery in your leg, and they go right up to your heart with that little tube and that little nano photography, try and see inside what's wrong, right? Because they couldn't see it with the MRI, they couldn't see it with the X-ray. But you know that there's something wrong because that's where it hurts, right? So in the same way, Krishna knows everything because this whole creation is his body, right? His perspiration are the oceans. The hairs in his body are the trees and plants. And his bones are the mountains. This is described. We're going to read that in the second canto, the canto that we're in now, the universal body, the description of it. So he knows everything that's happening to us. So it says, therefore the Absolute knows everything directly and indirectly. It happens in the creation. In the Shruti mantra, it is stated that the Absolute Whole, or Brahman, is the ultimate source of everything. Everything emanates from him, and everything is maintained by him. And at the end, everything enters into him. That is the law of nature. So this is an important thing to understand what the laws of nature are. We know what the laws of the state of Washington are. We know what the laws of the federal government are. But we don't know what the laws of nature are because they're not taught to us. You can only understand that by reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to continue right from this point. This goes on. It's absolutely brilliant for like 4 pages. And it's all there right in the first purport of the Srimad Bhagvatam, the answer to almost every question we have. You see how powerful the Bhagavatam is. Now, someone said, oh, well, I already studied that. Yeah, you studied it. Ha, ha, ha. But you didn't understand it because we weren't ready to we were not ready to understand. Now we have to go back again and look at it more seriously, right? To be able to absorb this knowledge. It's not just the fact that, oh, I already passed my Bhakti Shastra, I already passed the test on the first canto. Now I'm on the 10th canto. Well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you understand the first canto, or we understand the first canto. You can see that's why you have to keep going back and re-examine it, because we went through it so fast that it doesn't mean that we understood it. Right? Now, by reading more of the Bhagavatam, we can go back, just like we're in the second canto. Now we're going back to the first canto, first verse, and first purport, to understand better what we're seeing in the latter parts. Right? Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yeah, and how if you understand what's happening to you right now, you can understand your past, your present, and then you can also understand the future. You don't need the astrologer. You don't need the palm reader. You see, Prabhupada is just unbelievable. I mean, you read these things, unless it's really pointed out to you, you go past it. Right? You go right past it. And then you think, but I got my Bhakti Shastra. I'm working on Bhakti Vaibhava now. Obviously, I know the first canto. No, it's not that easy. Yeah, Haribol. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I have 2 questions. One is we know that to become a Dhamvasi, we should have mercy of the Guru. Not everybody can go and stay in a dham.
Yeah.
But according to the purpose that we wrote today, if we are above 50 and we expected Vanaprastha, we can go and live in that?
No, when you're Vanaprastha, you go visiting different dhammas, right? And in each dhamma you do, you practice simple austerity, husband and wife together, to lose their attachment to home and hearth, right? And after a certain period of time, when you both feel very confident about the rest of my life, I'm going to stay in Krishna consciousness, nothing's going to shake me. And the wife can live in a holy dham, or she can go and live with her, adult children, and husband takes sannyas. Right? That's the process. Yeah.
And Maharaj, why is deer skin considered pure to sit and meditate?
No snake will come near.
But near the deer.
So when someone's meditating like this all the time, right? So snakes or other things can come. But there's something about the deer skin that no snake will come near it.
Sure, Maharaj. And one last thing,
Yeah.
If service is so important,
Yeah.
then why for taking second initiation and stuff, they emphasize on studying the Shastra?
And second initiation is only if you want to engage in worshiping the deity. If you don't want to worship the deity, you're satisfied with just chanting and preaching and doing service, then you don't have to take second initiation.
No, but why do they then emphasize on getting a Bhakti Shastri degree? If you're doing services, is that not enough?
Well, there's different, let's say, ways of validating if a person actually is advancing in Krishna consciousness. One is that they're always engaged in service. The two is that they know the Shastra. So that's the difference between the Kanyastha Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and the topmost Adhikari, that is Uttama Adhikari. So the Kanyastha Adhikari is attracted to Krishna consciousness, likes it, but doesn't have hardly much knowledge of the Shastra, right? So they can't really convince another person to be Krishna conscious. They can point people to Krishna consciousness, but they're not strong enough to convince them. And because they're not so strong in philosophy, they can easily be misled and go away from Krishna consciousness. The Madhyamadikari studies the scriptures and also is very steady in devotional service and has come to the conclusion that this is going to be my life, rest of my life I'm going to stay in Krishna consciousness. Whereas Kanistadikari can still waver. Right? Madhyamadikari is usually, there's lower level, middle level, higher level Madhyama Adhikari, but the higher level Madhyama Adhikari is not going to leave Krishna consciousness. But they're not perfectly, let's say, trained in the philosophy. They know what the goal of the philosophy is, but they, like you're asking me a bunch of questions, right? Now the symptom of Madhyama Adhikari is that they can answer those questions, right? But then you come to Uttama Adhikari, he perfectly understands the Shastras, like Prabhupada. He can convince anyone. In fact, just looking at him, people can become convinced. Just meeting them for a few seconds, they become convinced. So, therefore, it is necessary if you want to be an effective preacher to know the Shastras. Right? But let's say you don't have the intelligence to know all the Shastras, but you're convinced that you're never going to leave Krishna consciousness, and you engage in Krishna consciousness with humble attitude. You're peaceful. You're equal to all living entities. You have the knowledge that Krishna is the goal of life, and He's the supreme controller, supreme personality of Godhead, and you're renounced. So such a person is a pure devotee also. Right? They might not be able to convince people philosophically, but they convince them by their example. So, therefore, there are different ways of understanding the position of a devotee. One is by their constant engagement in chanting and serving. Another is, besides that, by their knowledge of the Vedas, their ability to explain it and convince other people. So